Aloha, everyone. Good day. Good day. I know for some of you it's afternoon. For me, it's still morning. And then everyone in between. So welcome, welcome. You are joining your NYCP annual performance reporting webinar. I'm just going to check to make sure everybody has their audio on. We have a bunch of information to go through. And so I just want to make sure everybody's here. All right, looks like everybody's ready to rock and roll. So let's go ahead and get this cleaned.
This presentation was produced under U.S. Department of Education contract number GS00F115CA with Synergy Enterprises, Inc. The views expressed herein do not necessarily represent the positions or policies of the U.S. Department of Education. No official endorsement by the U.S. Department of Education of any product, commodity, service, or enterprise mentioned herein is intended or should be inferred.
Okay. Well, we are very fortunate with NYCP to sort of be in a little bit of a transition where we have Donna Bussell on, who is going to help make sure that we are following all of the requirements of NYCP. However, we do have Hannah, who is coming in as the new NYCP program officer. Hi, Hannah.
Hi, thanks, Alani. Hi, everyone. Thank you for being here.
So again, NYCP, very fortunate you have two program officers on to help assist to make sure that you are going to have perfect APRs. And we are here to help with that as well. Just for today's agenda, we're going to be going over your cover sheet, an executive summary, your section A, section B, section C. And throughout our session today, we're going to have some quiz questions. So we really hope that you're paying attention and maybe even taking notes down. Also, we'll give some helpful hints. And then at every different section of the APR, as we sort of dive into the different parts of the APR, we will be able to take questions and be able to answer them. However, if maybe I'm going through section A and a question pops in your head, and you don't want to lose it, please go ahead and put it in the chat. At every question interval, I will kind of scroll back to look at if there's any questions in the chat and be able to answer them. We do have our amazing, my amazing peers, both Inchin and Doris on board. And so they might be answering the questions as they go as well. But again, please put that in the chat, any questions that come along. Starting off, one of the most important things is your actual APR due date. It's April 26th. I want to highlight this for you. The time has changed. Your APR is due by 4:29 and 59 seconds. Okay, if it's 4:30, that you are late, and G6 will automatically close the application. So you want to make sure that you are calibrating to your time zone. Again, this is 4:29 or 59 seconds Eastern time. You want to make sure you're making that adjustment. But hey, here's a suggestion. Make your deadline a week before, or at least 3 days before the actual due date. That way, if you have any technical issues or maybe any questions come up, you want to go ahead and make sure that that is all correct and that you have time to make the adjustments. Now, APR, here's your APR timeline for the year, okay? So your APR is due on April 26th. The end of your grant year is September 30th. And then you will also have an APR update due, or you may have an APR update due on October 24th. So again, you want to note these times. We'll get into, what an APR update is. I know most of you know what that is, but we'll dig into that more. Now, these events are really crucial. And I just want to, if you are on office hours, you'll know, if you know. But if you don't make your APR update, I may be sending you a leaf. And I'll tell you a little story about it. So in the office hours, we were talking about fire ants, and I was challenged to come up with a fire ant story. And so I have to let you know that here on my side of the island, in Hilo and Keoka in particular, on Hawaii Island, we have a lot of fire ants. In Hawaii, we would call it choke fire ants, lots and lots of fire ants. So much so that when I go outside to prune my trees or to do anything in the yard, in my blazing hot sun, I have to wear a hat, I have to wear long sleeve shirts and pants and boots, because when I go and prune the leaves off of my tea leaf, it rains down fire ants on top of me. And so you get bitten all over the place. The one thing that we do use when you do get bit by fire ants is we come in the house and we cover ourselves with toothpaste, because whatever's in toothpaste helps the stinging. However, so if you don't turn your grants in, I may be sending you a tea leaf with fire ants on it. Nah, just joking. But that was my challenge, was to come up with a fire ant story and see if I could top the ones that were talked about in office hours. Anyway, I digress. So what is the purpose of your APR? It's not about fire ants, but really the purpose about your APR is that it's a federal grant requirement and is the primary document for submitting annually that allows you to document your progress towards your project objective. It is used by your program officer to determine the substantial progress of your project. This information is used to inform your continuation of award decision. Here's one of our first tools that we want to share with you. This is your APR checklist, and I think that's going to be popped right there. You go. See, and she's so good. She's so on it with the links. This is a really helpful tool. It's a great tool to sort of look at first before you even start your APR, to orient yourself to all the things you'll need, and maybe even designate out some team members that may be helping you put together information, and delegate that out. And it's also a really helpful tool to make sure you have everything you need before you go ahead and start to submit. So please use this checklist. Now, where are you submitting your APR? Your APR is being submitted into G6. Now, don't fret, because this is G6 has is sort of like the front page, but when you log in and get into it, it will seem very familiar to you. It still looks like the G5 system. Not a lot has changed beyond sort of the front page of G5. You will have to, though, make sure that you are logging on using a new login information. So again, please take time, maybe even during this session right now, to go, as I'm talking, to go in and check in to make sure you can log in. There are, right here is the help desk that you would want to make sure that you are accessing. If you have any questions regarding the technical side of your APR, this is what you need to contact. And Inchin, again, thank you for sharing that contact information there. Please make sure you're checking the office hours, because if you're way on my side of the planet, then a lot of times you need to call early in the morning, and so make those adjustments for the time zones. But again, if you have any questions regarding the technical side of G6 and your APR, this is the contact information you need to use. They won't be able to help you to talk through your explanation of progress or your budget revision. That's all either your TA team or your program officer. But if you are having a hard time like uploading a document, if maybe you try to go to press submit and it won't submit and you're not getting any error messages, this is the help desk you want to hit up. Excuse me. So let's get into what are all of these reporting forms we need to submit. Again, this is very similar to exactly actually to last year. So you want to make sure that it is your ED 524B form. You want to check to make sure the date is correct up there. It's the most recent date. I think the date on the top should be 7/31/2024. If you have another date there of a previous date, then you are using an old form. You want to make sure you have the new forms. Also, you can access your executive summary, your section A, section B, and the optional forms and section C. There are going to be a multiple places that you can get these forms. Right now, Inchin is loading the individual forms up into the chat. She will also share the NYC Padlet that will house these that have the forms already loaded there. You can also see, and she shared that link there that you can also access the forms there. The Padlet will have this presentation once we're done, as well as the recording of this session will also be uploaded in the Padlet, and you can use as you go through your APR. All right, let's begin to dig into the APR cover sheet. We're going to take some really we're not going to go through all of the different pieces, but take some key areas where we have common questions. So first one, we just want to make sure that you are writing in and including the NYCP PR award number. Some of you may have multiple OIE grants, so you want to make sure you are referencing and putting the NYCP award number here, excuse me. Also, big heads up, this reporting period begins October 1st to 2023 through to March 31st, 2024. So you want to make sure that you have that correct date. In section A, and we're going to dive into this a little bit more. Section 8A, in that row, you should be reporting the total expenditures from your first grant year or last grant year, okay? Oh, shucks, where'd it go? Sorry about that. Hold on a second. There we go. And then in 8B, what you'll be reporting there is your total expenditures for this current grant period. And what is that grant period? Reporting period, that's 10/1/23 to 3/31/24. And 8C, you just leave it blank, okay? You're not moving anything, you're not putting anything in there. What is that? There we go. So if we look at item number 9, if you are claiming indirect costs, then you need to make sure you are completing 9A through D as applicable. And so some of these questions and information may not be applicable to you, but if they are, then you need to make sure that you're completing the right alphabets, A through D for 9. For item number 10, everyone should be checking NA. Easy peasy. Then from item number 11, everyone should mark yes, and then make sure in your section C, as you upload any attachments, that you include that policy. And yes, you may have submitted the policy last year, but we also know that sometimes policies change. And so we would really appreciate you submitting that policy again. Now, this was the section I wanted to just, again, break down item number A, and because we get a lot of questions about this section. And so if you look at 8A, this will be your total expenditures from last grant year. So what time frame does that include? That includes from October 1st, 2022 through to September 30th, 2023. So that should be your total expenditures for last grant year. In row number 8B, that is going to be your total expenditures for this current reporting period, okay? And that runs from October 1st, 2023 through to March 31st, 2024. And then again, like I said, 8C should be blank. Don't need a zero, don't need anything there, just blank. All righty, now we're on to performance measure, oh, sorry, item number 12. This is related to your performance measure. Now, to be able to answer this question, you really need to have your Section A data all complete, or at least what you know, have the information that you know you're going to need to complete Section A. And really the information you need to know is, in Section A, are you going to be reporting any 999s? Well, basically any 999s. If you are reporting any 999s in Section A, then you need to make sure you are checking no, okay? And then you need to include when that data will be available. And the longest, I mean, I think the end date really should be September 30th, 2024, the end of your grant year, that you should have completed and be able to report on that 999. If you have all of your data completed, maybe you have some data that you won't have until next grant year, so you're reporting 0, then you can check yes for number 12. But if you have any 999s in your Section A, then you will again report no. All data must be available by September 30th. The other thing you want to make sure you're including is the name of your authorized representative and their signature. And so once you go into the G6 system and you download this APR cover sheet and you complete it, then you want to hand that off to your authorized representative, okay, and get their signature. This is really one of the, maybe this is step maybe 2 or 3 that you should be doing as you embark on your APR cover sheet. And actually the APR reporting. And the reason why we recommend this is because sometimes we find that grantees really get tripped up around getting their authorized representative, because maybe they're located in a different office, they're in a district office, or maybe they're your tribal chairman, and your tribal chairman is like busy, you know, running the business of the tribe. And so it gets into their inbox, but it doesn't get completed as far as their tasks that they're running through. And it really becomes a barrier and a stumbling block. So get that done and get that to your authorized representative and give them, you know, a due date that gives you a little time to make sure that you have their signature and upload it. All right. So it is quiz time right now. I'm going to turn it over to Doris, who will be our quiz lady for NYCP today.
Hello, everyone. So like Olani said, we're going to have some quizzes today. And so our first question is, for GEPR 2, some of your project measures require data available in September 2024. Will you report yes or no for number 12 on the cover sheet?
Wow, we've got some fast
Yeah, I
people.
see you guys coming in pretty quick. Will you report yes or no? We'll give everyone a few more seconds to lock in your answers. Awesome, I see you guys coming in. Okay, we will end the poll now to let you guys know. So a little mix up between the answers here. So like Olani was saying in the beginning regarding the cover sheet, this grant period is covering data that ends the end of March. And so if you have any data that won't be available until September, you will report no for number 12. You will put no. And that just tells us that, okay, this grantee will have an APR update come October because some data is just not available yet. So the answer is no if you do not have all components of your data on during this grant period. Moving on to the next one, budget stuff. So as of March 31st, you drew down $86,000 from G6. What should be reported in 8B? Awesome, you guys are this one's pretty quick.
Yeah.
Awesome, look at those answers. Awesome. Okay, so we will end the poll now. Everyone got it right. Yes, you're going to report $86,000 in 8B because it is what you have drawn down as of the last day of the reporting period. Awesome. Thank you guys. I'll be back pretty soon for some more questions, but I'll give it back to Alani for some top tips.
Thanks, Doris. Okay, top tips. You want to ask your budget office to send your G6 drawdown report to you on March 31st. And that's going to be really helpful because that's going to allow you to complete that item number 8. So go ahead. That's like that's maybe step 2 you should do after this webinar. Also, you want to complete your cover sheet and get it to your authorized representative for a signature as soon as possible. Don't wait for the full report to be completed because again, what we see as a common barrier to timely submission is that authorized representative because we know most of the time those are people who are very, very busy. And then you want to make sure you're checking your indirect cost rate, that it's not expired. I know Donna is really on it with the indirect cost rate and keeping that information and getting that information up from you that is up to date. But just go ahead and take a look-see and make sure you have the right expiration date because you actually have to put that in to the cover sheet. All right, so let's move on. This is our first pause for the cause and be able to take a look at any questions. Looks like it's all being answered. Don, did you want to expand on that comment around your comment around 999?
Well, just like last year, guys, and you guys all did a great job on your APR last year, your first ones for this grant. But if you're going to have 999s, if you foresee you're going to have any and that's just a data placeholder for your APR, because we know you're not going to have all this data by March or April, not March or March, for the school year. You know, we've been in the school, we know when those come in, but if you know you're not going to have it until September 30th of 2024, if you're going to have it after September 30th of 2024, put in a 0. It's okay. Then we can just count that for next APR because it will fall within that project period.
No.
Because we're looking for progress. We're just looking for that substantial progress. So if we go from 0 to even just 1, we're moving forward. So that's what we're looking for on these APRs.
Awesome. Thanks, Donna. Okay, let's move forward. We're going to dive into the executive summary. One of the key things with the executive summary is that you will have 1 to 2 pages to provide a narrative description of your program's accomplishments and highlights. Really think about your project goals and intended outcomes. Describe the extent to which your program was able to accomplish those things, or maybe not. Provide rationale as to why you maybe weren't not able to accomplish those things. Include any lessons that you learned or insights gained along the way, and maybe even share some of the challenges that you've been able to overcome. If your project goals and objectives were not actually met, providing your executive summary information about those challenges that affected your project implementation. You don't really need to go into a lot of detail. You're going to have other places to put information, but you want to sort of begin that conversation around your successes and challenges here in your executive summary. Also within your executive summary, OIE wants to know about any contributions your project was able to make to maybe research, knowledge, practice, and or policies, things that you may have learned from your program evaluation, or trends in any data that you might have documented along the way. Now, I know sometimes when they say research, maybe you actually have some actual like research being done, but you can also like any like action-based, maybe internal research that you're doing based on strategies that you're implementing. Maybe you found a new way in order to engage students and parents that you would love to share. This is really helpful information and helps to really inform the field. And there's also another tip I'd like to provide. When you develop this executive summary, you want to do this in another document. Don't do it directly in G5 because sometimes it'll log it out. So go ahead and write in this form or write a narrative and then go ahead and upload it and copy and paste it into G5. And actually, you know, in G5, you'll be uploading this separately. And so I don't know if you remember, but last year you had to upload your cover sheet and your executive summary and in one PDF. This year, you'll be able to upload them separately. So you'll be able to upload your cover sheet. It'll have its own little upload button, as well as your executive summary will now have its very own upload button. You want to make sure that you, in your executive summary, that you're being brief and you're basically starting the conversation that you're going to get into way more detail in your section A, in your explanations of progress, in your budget and your budget narrative, and even in your section C. Wow, are we at quiz time already? Here we go.
I'm back. Awesome. So our next question today, everyone, is about your executive summary. So how many pages? Oh, wow. Okay. So how many pages should the executive summary include? A, B, or C? And it seems like everyone already knows today.
On it.
Awesome. You guys are the quickest quiz takers we have seen.
Oh, yep.
Awesome. And so that is correct, everyone. The answer is B, 1 to 2 pages. And Alani's going to go through this a lot later too. If any case you have more to add to your summary or to other parts, there's a section later that we're going to talk about as well that you can add everything if it goes beyond 2 pages. Awesome. Thank you. Next one. Okay, so our next question is, you missed one of your targets for a project measure. Which of the following actions should you take in the executive summary? Should you A, write 999 because you need more data? Should you B, share the challenges meeting the project measure, but don't go into detail because you can do that in another part of the report? Or should you C, discuss the project measure, progress towards it, and include a brief rationale to why you missed the target?
Dun, dun, dun. What is that?
Awesome. I see folks coming in. We'll just give a few more seconds to those still reading and thinking. Should you do A, B, or C? Awesome. Okay, so we'll end the quiz and we'll show the right answer. The answer is B. So the answer is B only because, and Alani's going to go into this section next, but remember how Alani said it's just a quick snapshot. It's just going through your challenges, your accomplishments, your highlights, anything that you want to share on like a brief bird's eye view of what has been happening basically the first 6 months. You will get a chance to discuss your project measures, your progress towards it, and all of that in section A. And so it will be answer B for this question. And I
Okay.
think that's it for executive summary, Alani.
That sure is. Thank you. Thank you. All right, so what are our top tips? Again, stick to a 2-page limit. You can put extra information in section C. Also, again, you're just beginning the conversation. So you're sort of warming up the engines and you're going to provide way more information and have more opportunities in section A, section B, as well as section C. What you don't want to do is take sort of like your section A and copy and paste it into your executive summary. This should be broad and brief information. And I'm going to share the tip number 3, because this is really maybe some of the mindset you should get into when you're writing the executive summary. I know a lot of grantees will first complete their section A and maybe even their section B, and then come back and do their executive summary. Because really what you want to do is pretend that you're sitting down with either Donna and Hannah, and they're asking you over some coffee, and they're asking you, hey, like, tell me what's been going on the last 6 months. You're going to then share with them. That's really what you want to be putting into the executive summary. You probably won't be getting into a lot of detail about, well, we've collected monthly our data, and this we utilize this tool to collect the data. What you're going to be really talking about is what that data has shown you, what you've learned. That's the kind of stuff you want to put into the executive summary. The other thing is, I just want to maybe give you a heads up in your number 4 tip. If you are going to be including information in another section, so say, for example, in this executive summary, you want to continue to share information and you intend to put that into section C. At the end of your executive summary, please give your program officer a heads up that they can please refer to section C for for additional information. And that just, for them, that sort of signals that when they get to section C, they're going to be looking for that continued discussion that would have continued in the executive summary, or that's connected to the executive summary. Just a heads up. All righty, let's move on. Oh, to questions. And I see that Drew had a question in here. Should the executive summary, and Donna answered it. Again, all of the information that you are providing in this report should fall between October 1st, 2023 and March 31st, 2024. Like Donna says in her response, okay? Anything beyond that, it will either be the APR update or maybe even the next grant year. That's related to both, your section A and even your section B, your budget information. Okay. Let's move on. All right, we're in section A. This is really sort of section A and section B are sort of the meat, what do they say? Meat and potatoes of your APR process. So we want to turn your attention, and I think Inchen is going to throw that up there, and really looking at this first part where you are providing quantitative data. This is your project status chart. You'll see here that the first thing you want to do is to determine which performance measure you are going to be reporting on. Now this year, and I know Donna does this for her grantees every year, but this year you will have the GEPR measures automatically populated in this chart, okay? And so you don't need to copy and paste the language of the GEPR measure. You can go ahead and the GEPR measure will already be selected for you. But if you are going to be reporting on a project measure, then you need to make sure that you are selecting project measure and then going ahead and writing in your performance measure. Now, your performance measure should be the same language as it was reported in last year's APR. And so you're not switching up the language in this year 2 of your APR. So you're going to go ahead and fill that out. And then for your, again, for your project measure, you are going to write in your target ratio, as well as your actual ratio. And we'll get into that as it relates to your to this project. Okay. So here is what your project status chart will look like. Again, your GEPR measure is already going to be pre-populated. That language will already be pre-populated. It'll say GEPR measures. And so where you see these X's is where there should be no data there. Now, sometimes if you click on this in G5, like if you just so happen to maybe mistakenly click in target ratio box, sometimes it won't allow you to leave it blank just because you clicked on there. And so if you do, just go ahead and report 1/1. We'll know that that was a mistaken click, but we will be just focusing on this data that you are reporting in the actual ratio box, okay? So it should be reported there. There are some of your GEPR have common denominators, and that will again be pre-populated. So you will just enter your data there. As it relates to your project measure, okay, if you notice here, you are going to be providing your target information here. So that's really, again, the target, what you're shooting for, and then you're going to report on the actual performance ratio. Now, for either of these, either the GEPR or project measure, if you don't anticipate having that data until maybe, let's say, August, or maybe even September, but you will have it by the end of this grant year, you need to report 999. If you don't anticipate having this data until maybe November into the next grant year, then you will report 0/1. All right, here is your NYCP GEPR measures. Lovely, you have 2 GEPR measures. I'm sure you're very familiar with these. And this is how you should be reporting this. So we're going to unpack this a little to just really clarify what you should be reporting as far as your ratios go. So here are your 2 measures, and let's go over GEPR measure number 1. So the first GEPR measure is about percentage of annual measurable objectives. Okay, so these are your own project measures that you have created. So that bottom number should be the total number of project objectives that you are reporting. So let's say I have maybe 5 project objectives. I'm going to put 5 as the denominator. And then if I look at that top number, the number of project objectives met, maybe I don't have all of my data for all of my project measures, so I don't have complete data. So I'm going to report 999 on the top. Or maybe I have all of the data for my 5 project objectives, and so I might report like 3/5. We met 3/5 of our project objectives, okay? And so that's how that gets reported for GEPR measure number 1. Here's a perfect example of a common denominator. And so everyone should have 1 as their denominator on this. And then you will report the number of new partnerships. Now, again, you can go ahead and report the number of partnerships that you have. And these are should be considered like, what does new mean, right? Okay, so new really, this is you determining what new means, but it should be new to this grant year. Okay, so this maybe you identify and you define new partnerships as partnerships that you've created an MOU with, or maybe they are partnerships in which you are like tag teaming on different activities, or you are maybe sharing communication and they are assisting you with outreach. those may be all new partnerships. And so you want to go ahead and put that number on the top. Now, maybe you, in your mind, you really want to have 10 partnerships. And right now you are at like 5. So you're halfway there, but you don't have all of the data for this measure. You can again report 999. And in your explanation of progress, talk about the partnerships you've already developed so far, those 5 partnerships. All right, this is what a GEPRA will look like. So you see those circles with the X's? You should have nothing in that section. You can see here the exact language of your 2 GEPRA. It's again identified. Now, all of this again has been pre-populated by your program officer. And then right here, we have that data being recorded. And so again, you see on the bottom is the number 3 and number 2 as the top. Here again, you can see where your explanation of progress, and we're going to dig into really what should be included in your explanation of progress. But this is where you kind of dive in deeper into some of the things you may have shared broadly in your explanation of progress. So this is your first opportunity to dig in and provide some detail. You really want to make sure that you are talking about, like that example I shared about, maybe you have a goal of 10 partnerships, but right now you have 5. You can choose to report that 5 and know that you're going to update it in the update, APR update, or you can report 999, knowing that you are going to be collecting more partnerships along the way, and we'll have all your data collected by September 30th. Go ahead and share that information here in your explanation of progress. Talk about those partnerships. What are they doing for you and your program? How do you define partnerships? Again, is it that you have MOU? Are you looking at maybe some shared agreements? Or maybe they're helping you conduct outreach and you're being able to recruit some of their students. Go ahead and share those and make sure that they are active partners. Just as an example. Hi, Donna, did you want to share something?
Yeah, and that GEPR too, it's tripped up past of my NYCP grantees. And for those of you who have done this before, this is your community collaboration that promote college and career readiness for Indian children. So that's the big thing. Whatever community collaboration that you have that is promoting that college and careers for the students that you're serving. So that could be how many of those community collaborations that you've conducted. It's this APR year. So all of the ones that you've done this APR year, eventually we're going to add them all up during your FPR, and you'll get to see everything that you've done cumulatively. But this is for this APR year, so remember that one. And it's any of these college and career efforts, events, speakers, trips to colleges, to having somebody of a career come in, the career tech, any of those things that you have done, because I've been in your shoes as a director for an NYCP grant, and I know all of the collaborations that we do during a school year, and sometimes we forget that we were a part of that our NYCP efforts were a part of bringing in a speaker that talked on either career or college readiness, or college recruiters, any of those things. Count those. Those are your collaboration efforts as well, along with the MOUs, along with those partnerships that you're signing off on everything and who's doing what. But it's also those speakers and the different events and the college events that you have. And I think some of you have even done like financial readiness. That is not just career in college, that's life. So that's everything wrapped up into that, because I follow some of you on Facebook and I can see what you're doing out there. So make sure you're capturing those. Remember, it's from October 1st to March 30th, March 31st. actually the quarter ends March 20th, but we stretched it out for you. But that's what you're capturing. And if you want to hold off, and if you're going to do anything this summer, you can hold off and write your 999s, but don't forget everything that you've done. And you know, don't cheat yourself of all the things that you've done.
Awesome. Great. Thanks, Donna. That was great clarification. Because I do think when we do look at the APR that you're not, I think Donna's right, you're not sort of, you see a lot of grantees that don't incorporate all of the partnerships in the different ways. So awesome. Okay, moving on. Oh, well, okay, sorry. Hold on 1 second. Got stuck here. There we go. All right, so now let's move on to your project measures. Again, these are project objectives. These are the ones that you created for your grant. Now, remember, they has to be the same language as last year. There shouldn't be any new objectives or any like deletion of objectives. So let's go through what this should look like. So again, you're going to want to take that language from last year's APR, or maybe your project planner, or wherever you're keeping that objective, and place it in here. You're going to want to select project as your measure type. This is where you are going to be providing your actual performance data. This box right here, of course, where it has the 80/80, that's your target. So you want to make sure you put your target first and then report your actual. And then, of course, we have here at the bottom, your explanation of progress. A note on unavailable data. And so again, we've been saying this a couple of times, that what the current reporting period is. So all of the data that you currently have, data that will be available by 9/30/24 should be reported as a 999. Data that will not be available by 9/30/2024, maybe it's in October or November. Sometimes you're collecting data that may be connected to a district data set. And so you have to wait for that data to come out. You want to go ahead and report 0/1. Now, I know, being a former person who got grants, sometimes reporting 0, we get a little nervous about it, but you do have space in your explanation of progress to really talk about, like, hey, you know, we are doing, maybe we're looking at attendance, and the comparison group that we're looking at, that attendance data doesn't come out until October, as we look through the statewide data set regarding attendance. And so what we want to do is make sure that, you know, we have that data, and so we will be reporting it in the next grant year. That's fine. You really want to take, again, that explanation of progress to share that. And that will be informing, like Donna said, the substantial progress that you're making. It's your program officers don't just look at the numbers, they actually dig into the narrative to really sort of see and hear your story that's going on in your organization. And that leads us nicely into the explanation of progress. And so what should be included? And so you can see all the information that should be included there. Want to talk about why it wasn't met, provide a detailed explanation as to why, describe the steps and schedule for addressing any of the problems. So maybe, you know, as you're collecting this data on an ongoing basis, you have seen some maybe glitches as it relates to maybe you have a dual credit program, or maybe you are helping students in a college preparedness course, and you're seeing some of the data coming out that is, you know, you're just not really happy with. And you're thinking, you know what, we're going to implement this strategy. We've done some research on strategies and maybe talk to some of our other NYCPers, and we want to try this strategy. And so let your program officer know that, we're gonna try this strategy to hopefully get and build success for our students. This is a great place to put that information. Also in this space, you wanna share what data was collected, what are your evaluation methods, what are the tools you're utilizing to collect this? Is it a survey? Is it maybe registration, maybe completion of courses? Maybe they're getting certificates from, some certificate programs that they're doing, and how you are analyzing that data. Like, does your team sit down? Do you go over that data? Do you utilize that data to make any changes? And then, of course, take some time to briefly describe your activities and accomplishments. And if data is not available, again, like I said, let your program officer know when it will be available, maybe some of the challenges you're having. Maybe you realize, you know what, we came up with this 50-question survey and our kids aren't taking it and we don't have complete data. Like, let your program officer know. Okay. Also remember, in your explanation of progress, we learned this a couple of APR webinars ago. There is a character limit of 4,000. And that's a lot, but it may not be enough for you to provide, the detail that you want to provide. And so you can go ahead and let your program officer know at sort of the end of that section that I am continuing this information into section C. Did I say 4,000 or did I say 400? 4,000. Okay, awesome. Yes. Oh, yeah. And thanks, Donna. So really, you want to make sure that the explanation of progress matches what you're reporting with your numbers. Okay. Again, align it to those project measures and those GEPRA measures. And it's really helpful if you give your program officer sort of like a heads up. And one of the ways, and I'll go back here, is to label your explanation of progress with the actual number here for the measure. And so that really helps your program officer sort of cue in and like, okay, they're talking about this performance measure. So the explanation of progress, again, it should provide details about the reporting, what you're reporting in quantitative data. It should be clearly linked to each listed measure. And I showed you an example of how to do it. And then it should explain how the data is collected and compiled for reporting. So looking ahead, as it relates to this section A, if you are reporting 999 on any of your measures in this section A, that should cue you that you will be needing to report and provide an APR update. And it will definitely cue your program officer and the TA team that we should be expecting an APR update from you come October 24th, 2024. That is the due date. This is an APR update is only to provide updated information for your section A, and it will be submitted via an online survey. And we'll get more into that as we approach that date, either in talking circles or office hours or any other ways that we use to communicate and provide assistance. Okay, that was section A. Let's move on to our quiz time with Doris.
Hello. Okay, so this one goes back to what Donna and Olani has been talking about. By the end of the grant, 90% of your students will be on track to graduate on time. Do you report 999 or 0/1? Awesome. I see folks coming in. Just a hint, by the end of the grant, so this means once this grant cycle has ended, by the end of the grant, 90% of your students will be on track to graduate on time. Is this 0/1 or is this 999? We'll just give it a few more seconds so folks can lock in their last thoughts. Okay, Alani, what is the answer?
The answer is 0/1.
Yes, so 0/1 is the answer. And I wanted to kind of bring your attention to by the end of the grant. That means after the September 30th cutoff time, which then means that you are now cycling into the next grant year. So by the end of the grant, you will report 0/1. That means that if you have objective now, that you won't get that data until maybe October or mid-November. It is 0/1. But if you can get that data before the end of September, then that is 999. And like Donna said before, it is okay if you report 0/1, as long as your explanation of progress supports that data. We want to see tons and tons of sentences filled with stories and progress and how you got your data. So don't feel bad if you have to include 0/1. It is okay.
Yep.
Next one. Okay. Keyword is not. What is not a good tip for writing your explanations of progress? Should you A, keep your response brief and to the point? Should you not tell the story behind your quantitative data? Should you not use section C for any information that won't fit in the box? Should you not make sure to include an explanation for all measures, even those with no data currently? Which is not a good tip? Awesome. I see you guys coming in and see some mixed answers as well.
Yep.
Awesome. So the right answer today, which is not a good tip for writing your explanations of progress, is you should not keep your response brief and to the point. If you have started your APR reporting, and if you look at your explanation of progress right now, and you only see 1 to 3 sentences, I challenge you to go back and add more. We want to see some content, some abundance of goodies for us to read. And so I challenge you now that if you only see 1 to 3 sentences, I challenge you to add some more today and keep adding more, because we want to hear your story. We want to really be able to close our eyes and walk through your program with you. And so those are our questions for section A, guys. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thanks, Doris. Okay, so there are top tips for this section. Again, you want to double check that you have included all the GEPRA and project measures in section A. GEPRA measures is an easy one because that's already going to be pre-populated, but make sure you're going to go back and check your project measures from last year and you're utilizing the same one. Review the slides showing up so that you make sure that you're reporting each one appropriately. Also, you want to write your explanation of progress outside of G5. This allows you to use spelling and grammar check, as well as save your work in the progress. Again, because we're asking for a really robust sharing in the explanation of progress, and you don't want to have that get lost because G5 times out. And then, I think I just said this, don't slack on the explanation of progress. This is your chance to really dig in and tell the story behind the data. Unfortunately, we don't get to go out and check you guys out, but really, what would it be like if I was in your program and I was looking at your program with the lens focused around your particular objectives? What would I see? What would I smell? What would I hear? That's really and how would I know, or how do you know, and how are you showing and understanding if you're being successful or not? So really dive into it. Again, we have just a reminder, if you are reporting 999 on any of this information, that APR update is come October 24th. And we talked about that, so I'm gonna move on. We will be again providing way more detail and information regarding your APR update as we get closer. Are there any questions? I saw there was some questions about the package opening up. It's showing a due date of July 2nd. Yeah, that APR July 2nd would be incorrect, Dave.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I just had to go in and update all of the due dates for all of the NYCP grantees. So it, I just went into G5 to check that. We created the package, but it was one little step that I forgot to do. So they should all be there now. I just updated like 2 minutes ago. So you should update.
It's hot off the presses. So there you go. You again, I won't, it's not rude. You please go in and check check the G5 as I'm talking here. Keep one ear on me and go and check in and make sure you can access it. Remember, only your project director can access the G5 system. If you're a new project director, then you need to make sure you get a letter signed by your authorized representative stating that you are the new project director, and get that to Donna ASAP. Maybe this was asked, but will we get a copy of, yes. So you will get you will get a copy of the recording as well as the PowerPoint and the forms. You'll get an email, and then it will be posted on your NYC Padlet. Just in case, you're sort of moving down the line, you're like, where did I get this information? Always try and check your Padlet. That's what we try to keep it fresh with all the information. Great questions. And thanks, Donna, for being so on it with the hot off the presses G5. All right, we're moving on to section B. And so the first part of section B is your budget narrative. Let's dive into what should be included. So again, you want to use this section to provide a narrative of your spending for the entire reporting grant period. This section should expand. I know it looks kind of small, but it should expand as you type into the form. Ideally, this section should be organized by budget category, and I'll show you an example of that coming up. That will really help your reviewer understand where you are and help guide them along in your narrative. What you want to be reporting on here is, again, funds expended, even if it's not reflected in G6 yet, through the last day of the reporting period, which is what? March 31st, 2024. Okay. You also want to share your G6 drawdown frequency, like the reality of it, like when you are actually doing these drawdowns. There is a OIE recommendation that at minimum, it should be quarterly, okay? But talk about when you're actually, what the frequency is, and also talk about that process of how you're getting that information. What does that process look like? You will want to describe any challenges you face during this period. I know a lot of times there are transition in staff, and so that can have an impact on your budget. So go ahead and share that. I wanted to sort of take a pause here because I think Donna wanted to provide some clarity around carryover funds.
Yeah. Sorry about that. I was
Oh.
making sure everybody had the APR.
Mhm.
So this is whenever you're creating this in your APR, when you're looking at your budget and your budget narrative, these are your itemized categories. So you can use the budget tool that the team has created, and it's a great budget tool to use because it has everything in there that you need. But if you use your own, make sure these categories are in there and you are using the approved budget for this year that I have approved or that Hannah has approved already. So when we're talking about the carryover portion, we're looking at, you know, you're stopping everything, not stopping your activities, but with your APR, you're reporting what you have expended from October 1st of 2023 to March 30th, 31st of 2024. That's everything that your grant has expended that year, and all those invoices that may not have been paid yet, but those activities have been within that time frame. It may look like you have a lot of carryover. Some of you do have a large available balance, but you're going to let us know these other funds that are still in these categories are going to be spent this summer on different summer activities, or for the rest of the school year on X, Y, and Z. And let us know. There is a section that is anticipated carryover, which are funds that will not be spent until after the end of your program. So you might still have funding in there that is going to be there, you know, starting after September 30th of 2024. And we'll talk about all of that later this summer. But we just want you all to know that that's what we're looking at, those expenditures. So your carryover, if there's any carryover, it's just the remaining funds that's in your G5. That's always there. But if there's a large available balance and you're not letting us know why that has not been drawn down, or why nothing, it's going to look like nothing has been done on the grant, like no activities and nothing has been done. So if we're not getting any type of explanation, that could hurt your next fiscal year funding. We could do with possible reductions because it's going to look like there's nothing that has been done this grant year. Your first year of your grant, we kind of give you a little bit of, you know, slack. We cut you a little bit of slack because it's the first year of the grant, and we know how difficult it is to get off the ground the first year of the grant. There's things that happen and don't happen. But this second year, we're going to expect to see a lot more drawdowns and things going according to plan. So if it doesn't, that needs to be explained in that budget.
Awesome. Thanks for that clarification, Donna. Again, like Donna said, you really want to take this narrative and communicate to your program officer. Maybe you haven't been able to expend down a lot of your personnel. Let them know that maybe you're having some, you know, trials and hiring the right staff. And so what are you going to do to address that? This is an awesome communication tool to let them know. At this point in the grant year, you should be at approximately 50% of your expenditures. And so you should have been spending down. That's kind of a gauge, about 50% of your current budget, because we're about halfway through. Okay. If you are anticipating any budget revisions, you can go ahead and articulate that and give your program officer a heads up. But this is not the place where you do submit a budget revision. It's a great place to sort of take stock of both your project as well as your budget and see if there's anything that you need to change with your budget. And then after maybe the APR, begin to have a conversation with Hannah about, you know, the changes that you want to make as it relates to your budget. And then sometimes we have a lot of grantees that will submit their budget revision for the TA team to review, and then go ahead and submit to their program officer. But always have a conversation with your program officer. And this is when I say, like, organize your narrative based on your budget categories. And so, you know, all those budget categories: personnel, fringe, supplies, contractual, indirect costs, et cetera, et cetera. The other, go ahead and talk about what's happening with those funds in those different budget categories. And you can see this example here. Also there, that bottom circle on the bottom is where we start to talk about the drawdowns and what happens and what that process looks like. We've seen some grantees with some amazing processes where, like, every month when the fiscal or the budget staff reconcile and do their monthly reconciliation, they sort of have a team meeting, both project and fiscal, to sit down and go through the reconciliation, which just sort of keeps the project director up to speed, as well as the fiscal team about any changes that are happening programmatically that may affect the budget. Here is an optional budget reporting tool that we provide. It's a great tool, like Donna said. All of the information that you need to include is here, and we also have auto calculation fields. And so you are not required to use this tool. However, if you do decide to use another format, you still need to make sure that all this information is available. And so we're going to dive into the different pieces of information that you want to make sure you're providing. And so where you see all the yellow, that's all the spaces where you will be allowed to type in, and you should be typing in. Any of the fields, you see all those, that column with all the zeros, we have available fund column is zeros, and then the amount estimated remaining at year is zeros. That auto calculates. And so those fields are locked and you won't be able to enter anything into them, but it will auto calculate. So when we look at this first column, when you see personnel, basically what you're putting in to the columns that precede that are sort of like the entire spending for personnel. So you're not going to be doing like project director, you're not going to be creating new rows below personnel. So all you need to do is report the numbers for this amount, I'm sorry, the approved budget. So you're going to take, like Donna said, you're going to take that approved budget, you're going to put those numbers here in this approved budget column, and then you're going to work with your budget people, and you're going to look at the numbers of the funds that are drawn down in G5, and you're going to report those numbers here. And then you're going to talk about or look at the expenditures not yet drawn down from G5. So what's the difference, right? So the funds drawn down from G5 have already been like drawn down and have gone to your organization. However, you probably, and you may have actually expended funds and have been paying out funds, but you haven't done the drawdown yet. And so that's really what should be reported in the column titled expenditures not yet drawn down from G5. I hope that makes sense. All right, so available funds, we're not putting anything there. It's doing our math for us. Hallelujah. Then when we look at rationale for available funds, that is a narrative field. And so you'll actually be talking about, and you'll be describing why you have the amount in the available funds column. Okay, so let's say I have maybe 50,000 in personnel available. So that's the amount I have to expend for the remaining 6 months of this grant. So I'm going to talk about what I'm going to use that $50,000 for. If it's, we're going to continue to pay the salary of all of our current staff, lovely. That's exactly the explanation you should be providing. Okay. Now, so maybe I want to have, I won't be able to expend all the funds anticipated to be spent. So this is the funds that will be expended by the end of the grant year. Okay. It then auto calculates it again and gives you the amount of that you will have at the end of the year. So basically it takes available funds and anticipated to be spent funds, and it auto calculates that. So if I have $50,000 available in my personnel costs and available funds, and I report in anticipated to be spent by that column right here, by the end of the grant year, $50,000, then what should come up in this amount estimated at the remaining of the year should be 0. Okay. Now maybe I have 50 here and I have 10 here, which gives me a remainder of funds of $40,000. I need to talk about in this last column here, what's going to be happening with that $40,000. Now, maybe I'm anticipating submitting a budget revision because I want to move those funds someplace else. Maybe, the reality is that we hired, it took us a long time to hire, we lost one of our staff, it took us a long time to hire, and so maybe the reality is, I need that position, I don't wanna move that position, I have somebody currently in, but I won't be able to expend the entirety of that $40,000. So provide that information here. But of course, let me go back here. That's perfect information to be putting into your narrative, where you can have room to explain more information, more detail. But there should be words here, again, in this intended use of remaining funds beyond the grant's ends. Okay. I know that was a lot. Sorry about that, but it's some really, I think, important information. Now, again, just want to cue you in. There are narratives in column F. That's that rationale for available funds, and column I, intended use of remaining funds. And you can see right there, and I went through that already. So let's move into the next quiz time with Doris.
Hello. So your poll that's going to pop up is going to consist of all the questions all together. So just make sure that you scroll. And so the questions that you see, so the first question is just a personal preference, no right or wrong answer. Do you plan on using the optional budget reporting tool? Yes or no? The second question is, do you need a Section B budget narrative if you use the optional budget reporting tool? And the third question is, do you need an optional budget reporting tool if you provide a budget B narrative? So that's the first three questions. Then you're going to scroll down and you're going to use the accompanying photo on the screen that you see in which columns must be completed. Which one of these columns are you going to input information on the optional budget reporting tool?
Do. We need music.
We'll give a few more seconds for folks to lock in their last thoughts and answers. Awesome. I see some really good answers coming in.
Wow, there's an on it.
Perfect. Awesome. Awesome. So we're just going to go through the answers together before I turn it over back to Alani. So the first question is, I see a majority of you, are going to be using the optional budget reporting tool that we provide. But I do see a few folks that said no. And so we just want to let you know that although you are not choosing to use the optional budget reporting tool that is provided to you that you see on the screen, you must still submit a reporting tool that still gives the same information that you see on top of the columns. And I hope that made sense. I know I often confuse myself when I try to explain it as well. And so moving on to questions 2 and 3, do you need a Section B budget narrative if you use an optional budget reporting tool? The answer is yes. And the same goes for answer number 3. The answer is yes. And so you're probably thinking, well, it's optional. Like, why do I have to submit it? So the reason why we are giving an optional budget reporting tool is because it's optional if you use ours, but it is not optional to not submit the same information. And so the Section B budget narrative and the reporting tool go hand in hand. The Section B budget narrative provides information and really good context about your finance habits, your expenditures, your drawdowns that you don't see in the reporting tool. And the reporting tool talks about your rationale for available funds, what hasn't yet been drawn down, what are your intentionalities for these funds and your intended use. So at the end of the day, you need both. Both accompany each other. They both must be submitted. Now, whether or not you use our optional budget reporting tool is up to you, but you must still include a budget reporting tool that has the same information you see on the screen.
Awesome.
And moving on to section 4, yes, not section 4, sorry, question 4. On question 4, you guys all pretty much understand the gist that this optional budget reporting tool has locked cells. Therefore, you are obligated to report in sections B, C, and D, F, and G, and H. And Alani did an amazing job walking through each of those. And so if there's any time you may need more assistance, please reach out to Olani or your program officer. Awesome. Thank you guys for participating so far. And back to you, Olani.
Thanks. Thanks, Doris. Okay, our tips for section B. Again, you want to make sure that you are submitting both the narrative, section B narrative, and the optional reporting tool, or your own format as you choose. And that's because, like Doris said, they go hand in hand. The optional reporting tool or your other format is sort of like the picture, and the budget narrative provides the story to the picture, okay? Item number 2 on the top tips, remember that if you don't submit an optional budget reporting tool, you must submit all the same information. And that includes the narrative the columns that require words, not numbers. And then let your budget office know what budget information you'll need right now, and for what reporting period that you need that information. Remember, sometimes I know budget offices have multiple different sort of timelines in which they can gather information. So they might be reconciling monthly, or they might have other grants that are on different timelines, or maybe there's a board report that they have to do. So that you need to make sure that you're giving them the October 1st, 2023 to March 31st, 2024 frame of reference, so that they can pull the right numbers for you and provide the right information. All right, I'm going to take a pause and see if there's any questions. Okay. Are there any questions? Does anybody want to come off of mute and let's hear your beautiful voice? Do you have a question? If not, we'll move forward. It looks like I might be running overtime. It might be a little bit overtime, so I'm going to keep rolling. So we're on to section C. This is the final section. And this is really where you get to include any information that didn't fit into either your executive summary, section A. Section B, you have a lot of space, so I don't know about that, or any other information that doesn't have a home elsewhere. You might want to also include photos or student work samples. Remember, G5 likes and prefers and operates best and will request all of your documents that you upload as PDFs. And so for section C, if you are wanting to provide student work samples, news clippings, the other day we were working with a grantee who had a video, you can go ahead and put the link in. You can't upload a MP4 or MP3, but you could put a link to the site, and maybe we could get to your YouTube to see that. That all needs to be combined into one PDF, okay? And this section, again, is just sort of sharing information. This is a great place, again, to put, if you remember from our cover sheet, that policy around privacy, this again is a great place to upload and combine into one PDF. So what can you be including in this section? Again, success stories, challenges, provide any other appropriate information, maybe also share some unanticipated outcomes. So you know how in section A, you're talking about all the outcomes you were anticipating, the project objectives you were planning for, but maybe some new stuff came up that you hadn't anticipated. Go ahead and share that there. And again, remember, you want to create one PDF and upload it all as a combination PDF with all of your goodies in there. The other tool that you can use to provide information is your optional Section C reporting tool, okay? Now, you don't have to use this tool. It was created, again, to capture all the information. However, if you do use Section C, then you don't need to complete that other form, Section C, that I showed. So you can get to choose. Now, you can still upload all of the other goodies that you want to share, pictures and everything, into one PDF and upload it. That's fine too. But you don't need to create a narrative. You can just go and complete this optional Section C reporting tool. If you don't choose on using the optional Section C and you just want to use that narrative, then we would appreciate that you provide the information that's being requested in this reporting tool, only because this is really trying collect information that may be not found in any other part of the APR and is helpful for your program officers. So again, want to make sure you have your grantee name and the correct PR award. You can go ahead and select whichever grade levels, all the multiple grade levels you're serving. Right here, again, this is with the first column is you want to look at unique students and unique adults. So these are not duplicated numbers. These are unduplicated counts. That first during the reporting period is exactly that. So you're going to report the number of unique students and unique adults during the reporting period. And then also your anticipated. So maybe during the reporting period, it is 300, but by the end of the grant year, you anticipate maybe 500. And so that's what you will report here in this anticipated column. You want to include what percentage of staff time does your project director devote to this grant? Also, go ahead and click on any of the different ways and times that you provide these services and the different methods that you provide these services, in person, virtual, or hybrid. And we know you folks use a wider range of this. Now, for these sections, we're not asking for a full-on narrative. These are just really short responses. And this one in particular, this is really helpful for OIE because while you are not maybe explicitly a language program, you might be integrating some native language instruction into your program, or maybe you're working within an immersion setting. Please share the language that you might be instructing or providing services to and what language that is. Again, this is your guys' jam, and go ahead and share. Again, this can be bullet. It doesn't need to be in narrative form. Any of the evidence-based services or strategies that you're using, again, doesn't need to be a full-on paragraph. It can be a bullet form. The partners and their current status, active or inactive. Again, that's connected to your GEPRA, and so this is a really good place to provide that information. Detail any key personnel changes. Again, you can state there's been no changes if there hasn't been. Again, how you're planning on sustaining the program activities. Now you might be like, oh, Lenny, we're not there yet, but really, you really should start thinking about how you're going to sustain your program and all the different ways you can do that really at the beginning of your grant. So if you're not thinking about it yet, start thinking about it now and share that. Describe any planned changes. And then again, just a one sentence on your success and a challenge. Okay, so really brief. And we're here at quiz time again. This is our last quiz time, so take it away, Doris.
Thank you. Thank you all for sticking with us so far. So you have two last questions. So this question is, Section C is a place for you to put any information that did not fit in other sections. And question number two, if you submit the Section C optional reporting tool, you must also submit a Section C narrative. And they're both true and false.
I'll go back there. Oh, shucks.
Answer.
Oh, well.
Don't look,
there's
don't
the
look.
answer. But you guys got it already. Even before. You're just so on it.
Awesome. We'll just wait a few more seconds for folks to get your answers in. Awesome. So Alani already gave us the first one. It is true. Like we said in the beginning, if there's additional information in your executive summary and your explanations of progress, even in your budget narrative, if there's any photos, news clippings, if there's any student success stories, community success stories, if there's any people in your community you want to highlight from your grant, please, please, please use this section C to use this to tell us more information. I know in our communities where we're taught not to boast and be cocky and talk so much about ourselves. And so this may feel a little odd for us in our communities, but we really want to hear and be able to share these really great things that you all are doing. So please consider using section C. Now, the next question got a lot of mixed results. And so the answer is false. If you submit your Section C optional reporting tool, you do not have to submit a Section C narrative. You can submit them both, but you can choose one or the other. So yes, you don't have to do them both, but you can choose one or the other. And for that, thank you guys for coming to our game show. Wish we had prizes to give. Thank you for participating.
Awesome. Thanks, Doris. Okay, we're nearing the end. I promise. I promise. So here's our tips for section C. Upload the section C tool as a PDF. Again, you want to, any of those goodies you're sharing, you want to combine it into one PDF and upload it as a PDF. Also answer each question on the tool completely. So if you're utilizing that tool, make sure you answer it completely and succinctly. Why is mine not clicking? There we go. And remember that you can also submit any information that doesn't fit into any of the other sections in the APR, such as charts, links, articles, and pictures. Again, if you maybe in your executive summary, you said section C for further discussion and further sharing, then maybe when you go to section C, you might want to say like from executive summary, like give the reviewer a heads up where that those two pieces are connected. Okay, moving on to questions. Don't see any in the chat. So we'll move forward again, please. Wait, I saw something pop up. Okay, you're welcome. All right, we're gonna hustle to the end. So what do you need? All the forms already available in G6 are your cover sheet. Remember, you have to fill that out, download it, take it to your authorized representative, have them sign it, and then upload it again. The other thing that's already in section in G6 is your section A, those charts. And so that's already there. However, remember, we recommended creating your explanation of progress in another document and then copying and pasting that into that section A. You want to use the forms that are provided. And so here's a list of them. Again, you can choose your budget narrative. I know you've been getting them all these forms throughout this webinar, and you will be able to access them off of your NYCP Padlet. So again, we're nearing the end. There's an end of event poll that's going to be popping up. But while we're doing that, we want to just look at continuation awards. Again, OIE makes every effort to review these APRs in a timely fashion. Now, remember, whoever has NYCP has a whole bunch of APRs to review. And so you want to make sure that you have submitted it on time, that you have all the information, that you are bringing your reviewer, your program officer along in the grant so that there's no questions in order for the review to go quickly and effectively, and that continuation awards can be awarded in a timely manner. Because again, this is one of the tools they utilize to make that decision. Again, yay, Donna got your G6 is open, ready for reporting. So jump on in there and get that done. Only again, the grant project director of record is able to enter G6. If you have any problems or questions about that, you can email us at oie@seiservices.com and we can make sure you have all the information you need to update that. And you will need to get that to Hannah in order for her to go into the system. So please, if you're a new project director, get that done ASAP. Also remember the deadline, April 26th, 2024 at 4. No, that's not right. Is that right? It should be for, if it's 4:30 Eastern time, you pass the due date. So it should be 4:29 at 59 seconds. You pass the due date if it's 4:30. So you know what? Set your due date the week before and don't stress out. So you don't get stressed out. You will not be able to go into G6 after when the clock hits 4:30. Cinderella, you're late and your slipper will fall off. Okay, remember again, do finalize and submit your APR. When you go into the system and you complete all the forms in G5 or G6, make sure you hit that submit button. Once you hit that submit button, totally log out of G5/G6 and then relog back in and make sure it indicates that it has been submitted. If you're having any difficulties with submitting, contact the help desk at G6 in order to get that tech support. Again, here we are again with that April 26th due date deadline at 4:29 and 59 seconds. And like Dora said, 4:30 is too late. All right, we're done. Thank you guys for hanging in there. I know we're a couple minutes over. We will be having an office hours coming up on April 25th. That's the day before this APR is due, so you don't want to hold your questions till then. Also, we will be having on April 11th an all-program APR talking circle where we will be going over some of this stuff, not as in-depth as we did at this time. But if you have any questions, now that you're kind of like getting into it, go ahead and make that list. Also, don't have to hold off to April 11th. Go ahead and book a coaching session, and we can help you walk through this, and it's fabulous. We want you folks to have a decreased stress and a successful APR reporting season. Here's all your contact information. Again, there's Hannah's email. Go ahead and email her if you have any questions, or OIE will be happy to help. Again, thank you so much and have a wonderful rest of your day. Aloha.